Hello.
Hello.
Wow. Salma Hussain.
Yes.
What a great honor and privilege to be interviewing you for the children's book channel of the New Books Network. That's a mouthful. New Books Network. I'm going to speak to them. We have to fix that. So Salma, we're here to celebrate an amazing book, The Diary of Mona Hasan. And I'm way out of my comfort zone today. And it's not because you grew up in the Middle East somewhere, and our paths have crossed. You immigrated from the Middle East to Toronto.
Yeah.
I immigrated from Ottawa to the Middle East. In the religious sense, we are cousins.
Yes, that is true.
And you have your Eid now, Eid al-Fitr. So here in Israel, we wish you Kul Aam wa Antum Khair.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know what they wish you in Canada, but I'm hoping you're having a terrific Eid. And this is a special honor and a real challenge for me to interview you on your book, which is not a picture book. So tell us about it. I'm going to let you talk about it, and then I'm going to bug you a little bit.
Absolutely, as you should. Well, first of all, let me say thank you so much for your kind welcome. I'm delighted and honored myself to be here. I think it's wonderful. It is Eid for us. Usually, it's Monday morning. Typically, you know, in a different year, we would have taken this time off and be eating and stuffing ourselves with sweets. But here we are, it's pandemic, so we're like, let's not mingle with the crowds too much. So I'm delighted to be doing this interview with you instead. This is The Secret Diary of Mona Hasan. It is what's called a middle grade book. So after picture books, you enter the realm of what's called middle grade. And these are young readers who are ideally maybe reading on their own. They're anywhere from 8 to 12 years old. I do feel The Secret Diary of Mona Hasan is a little bit upper middle grade also, because the themes are a bit more mature. You have a young girl who's going through puberty and other feelings. She's at that age where she's exploring and looking at the world around her. And what I like to say is you have to be at an age where you're ready to laugh at yourself, and you have to be ready to laugh at the world, because the world is beautiful and the world is absurd. And I think that's what The Secret Diary of Mona Hasan captures for this particular character. And I think for most of us, when we enter adolescence, most of us look around and we're like, wow, this world is beautiful and has a lot of zaniness, funniness, and absurdity to it. So that's what I've tried to capture in this book. It's lovely that you made a journey of your own self from Ottawa to Israel. I made a journey in the opposite direction. I was going from the Middle East to Canada. So, I mean, we all have such wonderful journeys and adventures that we've been on. And we learn so much when we look at other people's journeys. And we're like, in what ways were my journeys similar to someone else's? And in what ways are they different? I think it's wonderful if we just question those things and sit and reflect with it and gain and grow from that reflection. So anyways, we have so much to talk about. I could go on.
No. One of the things I teach my students is to make a journey. That creating your own fate is important. And it sounds like a contradiction in terms, but when you move from Abu Dhabi to Toronto, you certainly have another life, a different life than you'd have in the Middle East, and the opposite for me. So I'm going to ask you about your life, but one of the things that intrigued me when reading this confessional diary, and even I was almost embarrassed at some stages, was what percent of this is Salma? Without going into the specifics, like
I mean, great question. It's a first novel. I think they say, I think the consensus is for first-time authors, you draw heavily from your own life. And I'm no exception to the rule. I have drawn heavily from my life. Mona Hasan is a young Pakistani Muslim girl who's growing up in Abu Dhabi, which I did. She immigrates around the time that I did as well. Are some of her confessional feelings and thoughts things that I experienced. Yes, yes. These are.
So you could answer by just saying 80%, 90%.
I'm going to
Because
say
if you don't, I'm going to ask you specific questions.
I'm going to say 50-50. Let's say 50-50. At the end of the day, it is a novel, and I was constricted to make it more interesting than my own life was. So I had to introduce some things, some funny stuff that happens that didn't quite happen to me. I'll say that I used fiction to get at the truth, if that makes sense, Mel. So let's say 50-50. There's a fair amount of stuff that did not happen in the way.
Okay. So Salma, I love that because I believe that when you write fiction, you create a truth. So take us through your childhood. How did it, let's say, differ from the diary, the very exposing diary of Mona?
Well, so my own family is bigger, number one. So here, Mona is the oldest child, and she's a bit of a pesky brat. She's very happy to be the oldest child and takes her position very seriously. She's like, I'm the best, I'm older. I was not the oldest child. I was the one in the middle. So I had a bigger family, and Mona just has a younger sibling. That's
a younger sibling that bothers her all the time.
Exactly. And I think no, I was actually quite close to my younger sister, but we had some of these dynamics.
No, but I'm thinking that maybe you were the younger sister a little bit in your story.
That's what I would like to think. That's what I'd like to think. What else can I tell you, broadly speaking? You have a mother here who's going through Can I give away some of the spoilers? Can I say the mother is going through a bit of depression?
I think I'm going to say this.
Yes.
It's not a picture book. So even though you're showing the beautiful cover,
yes.
Usually we give something away to our listeners, because we want them to run out and buy the book, which is, and I must say, I don't read middle grade, but it was so interesting for me. And I'm so happy I read it.
I really, honestly, Mel, I really tried to make this, though it's being marketed, I really wanted all ages to enjoy it post, let's say, 12 and a half. So I really wanted everyone to enjoy it. Anyone who's a kid or kid at heart should be able to enjoy it. So yes, in this book, the mother is going through depression. So I'll give you the broad general stuff that happens. I think you still need to read it.
1 second. We have to tell our readers.
Yes.
You talked about middle grade being between 8 and 11.
Yes.
And you say now this book is for 12-year-olds?
I say this is upper middle grade. So middle grade technically is 8 to 11. And then there's a category that's being defined now that's called upper middle grade. So anything 12 plus, but not quite young adult. I don't know what these categories mean, Mel.
But a precocious 11-year-old will enjoy this.
100%.
Because Mona is 11. Okay,
yes.
so her mother in the story has depression.
Yeah, and that is that does reflect the truth. So my own mother was going through depression as well. There's the father's journey where the father moves from he's a banker, well-established banker in the Middle East, and he moves to Toronto and has trouble finding a job and
ends up in a gas station.
Ends up working at a gas station. This also reflects reality, Mel. Wow. So that was pulled from reality. You have Mona making friendships, and some of those are reflected. I won't tell you which ones unless you pointedly ask me.
No, I'm going to ask you about Walid, sure. Mona's first boyfriend.
Yes.
Is there a Walid?
There was a very good-looking Walid when I lived in the Middle East. Yes, everyone loved Walid. Walid was like the star of the school. Did I, Salma, date Walid? No, that did not happen. Do young girls in the Middle East date good-looking boys that they find? Yes, 100% it happens. So that does happen. And that is reflected in this. Do young girls have infatuation and crazy feelings for boys that they find attractive? Yes, that does happen. Or girls that they find attractive. That also happens. So I try to insert some of that we don't see represented as often. And I'm privileged enough to live in Canada to be able to explore those issues and explore that reality. And I wanted to, because we do have so many people who are being displaced and are moving from the Middle East to Canada or North America. They are leaving certain lives that they can speak about or not speak about from the places they come from, and they have to make new lives in Canada. And it's a time of great confusion. I captured it for myself, and this book is set in the 1990s, so it's a little bit, it's set earlier. But I have no doubt in my mind that kids today are facing the exact same challenges, the exact same confusions. And the book is meant to kind of present them with a mirror and a window into the truths that we don't often speak about. And I think there's so much to be gained when we do speak about them, because it will make young kids or even, older kids feel less alone in the world. And I think that's an important feeling.
I think it's incredible. So this book is a little, how shall we say, you talk about a lot of things, the angst of a girl growing into womanhood. I'm not sure that this book would go over well if it were published in Abu Dhabi or Pakistan. Your thoughts?
Yeah, would it? Would I write that? Would I be the person? Would I? I don't know. I have kids, so yeah, that's, and because the beginning of the book pokes fun at a lot of systems, pokes fun at many different things and systems and ways of thinking, I can tell you, I don't know about Abu Dhabi, but I can tell you about Pakistan. I would be very fearful, because I know Pakistan a little bit more intimately. It's my parents' country. I would be very fearful to publish it there.
Yeah, so certainly Urdu is not the first language it's going to be translated into.
It might be, but the thing is, there is a hunger for those stories. There's a real hunger for those stories. There are some writers who in the past have explored similar issues and done a really good job. In today's climate, would I take that risk? Personally, I'm not that brave. No, I would not.
But maybe you can translate it to Urdu while living in Canada.
Possibly, but then is there enough of a market here of kids who speak their mother tongue in as much fluency to be able to understand? I doubt it. I think.
No, okay, but maybe it could go online somehow. We have to talk about this.
We can talk about this.
Okay, because there are many millions of young ladies
Yes.
who speak Urdu, who would benefit greatly from this secret diary of yours. And it is a secret diary. It should be shared. It certainly taught me a lot about young girls. My daughter and I, we were at loggerheads from the age of about 11 or 12 till she was 16. And after, I should have read your book. It wasn't written, of course. Yes. And maybe you were 5 when my daughter was 12. I don't know how old you are. So how about the Gulf War? Yes. Because I'm reading about the Gulf War in Abu Dhabi. And we had the same experience with Iraq here in Tel Aviv and Ramat Gan, sealing the windows and making sure there were no bubbles.
Yes, and so for many of us, I think the Gulf War feels like that one of the pivot points, right, where you reevaluated what's your safety and security in the area that you're in. And what I remember during that time, and my family moved over during the second Gulf War. I said this during the first Gulf War just because in terms of geography and history, I thought that was easier for readers. But yeah, it was a time of great instability for all of us in the Middle East, right? And I do mention there's some attacks that happen in Haifa, and that's pulled from reality. That actually did happen. Nobody knew what
we were here. We were here.
Yeah, you were there. You were living it. So it was a time period you were like, what's going to happen? Is this whole place going to collapse? Who's going to ally with whom? What's that going to mean? And what I remember is a lot of families from my parents' circle, many of us were contemplating moving And many of us were like, where do we go? In our case, because my parents came from Pakistan, which was highly unstable at that time, Pakistan did not seem like an option, like a viable option for us to go. Or it did not seem like a desirable option for us to go. And so we were lucky enough to be able to immigrate to Canada. And we chose to do so.
How old were you when you came to Canada?
I was older. So what happened? Oh, and here's some stuff that's a little bit different as well. We actually went to the United States first. So we did what everybody was doing, applied to a whole bunch of countries to see who will respond first. The US responded first. So I was 12 when we left, and we lived in California for a year and a half. And then we moved to Canada because the Canadian papers came, and then we thought, okay, let's move to Canada, because we were in California, we were in LA. It was a big city. It seemed kind of scary to us. So we chose to go to Canada, which seemed quieter, more peaceful, and more mild and more calm. So I was 14 years old when I arrived in Canada. So again, a very destabilizing time for anyone to make a move in their life. And particularly for me, because I felt like I lived a very sheltered life in the Middle East, as many girls do. It's very sheltered in its own way. And I think I tried to capture some of that from Mona as well. Fairly, tame, sheltered life. And then you move to Canada and it's just, or you move to North America and it's just very different. And the world seems alive with possibility in a way it was not before.
Okay, let's go back now to young, precocious Mona, who writes poetry in English.
Yes.
Are you the young, precocious Salma who wrote poetry?
Yes, definitely. I was writing stories and poems from a very young age. In this book, Mona hilariously writes terrible poetry. And it's meant
I didn't want to say anything about that, because I say, oh no, the Jews say oy vey, because her poetry kind of stinks. So I'm okay. So that's on purpose.
Yes. No, it's very intentional.
No, I feel much better now.
No, it's meant to evoke a laugh, because I think when we're young, we take ourselves so seriously, and Mona takes herself very seriously as a very astute and intelligent, articulate poetess, she calls herself. But of course, her poetry is terrible, as much of our poetry that we write in our young ages is terrible. But and it's really an homage to the Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, which, if you like this style of book, I would encourage you to pick up that one as well, because it's written very much in that style. You have a comically clueless teenager who's growing up and trying to make sense of puberty and life, and also writes terrible poetry. and
also makes interesting requests from Allah.
Yeah, Adrian Mole.
It's so endearing.
Yes, Adrian Mole did not. That, Mel, I was piecing together bits and pieces of my favorite books, and that making her demands on Allah, that bit came from Judy Blume's famous book, Are You There, God? And I wanted to pay homage to that. And you have a young teenage girl talking to God. And I thought, oh, how lovely if Mona can do that too and talk to God in this book.
It's wonderful that you're giving credit to other authors. Yeah. It makes us stronger when we give credit to our sources. That's really lovely on your part. So we have here a Mona who is similar to Salma, but different. Now I want to take you on your writing career, your actual writing career, because you told me before we went on the air that your mother tongue is Urdu.
Correct. Yes.
So you're not writing in your mother tongue. There are many successful authors who write in their second language, and there's certain advantages to that. But I'm going to stop. Talk about your writing career.
Well, this is my debut novel. So this is my first book that's been published. I have published pieces here and there, short stories or poems in Canadian literary magazines, but this is really my first work.
How did that start, though?
How did this start? Sometime in 2000, and I got the idea for the book and that was when my daughter actually, she was 5 years old at that time, and she turned to me at bedtime and she said very sleepily, she was like, Mama, you didn't grow up in Canada, did you? You grew up in you were born elsewhere. Were you a regular kid just like us? And my daughter asked me that. And you would think that my daughter, I speak a little bit of Urdu at home and she sees her culture. I was surprised my daughter who's born in Canada would ask me that. And the fact that she asked me that, I was like, I want to write a book that answers my child's question in a child's voice. Anyways, that was the spark for this idea, for this novel. And I was like, I want to write a kid about a regular girl growing up who was not born in Canada. And what
One
would
second, but
like?
your daughter was 5 only 4 years ago.
Yes, yes. I did write this very quickly.
Wow.
I know. You know, Mel, it was the book of my soul, let's say. I was also very fortunate. Like I'm writing full time also, you should know that. And it came out in like, I wrote like I was a woman possessed. Like everything just came out. I put together bits and pieces of my favorite books. So as we mentioned, Judy Blume, I looked at her and how she does it so well. Adrienne Mole, which I adore. There are a few other books as well that came out. Front Desk has come out while I was writing this. Inside Out and Back Again is a bit older, and that's a beautiful book as well about immigration. So I was taking bits and pieces from my favorite books and coupling it together. And I had the broad idea for what I wanted to do. And then I just wrote like crazy and it all came out and I felt like it needed to come out. I felt very much possessed. And it happened very quickly for me. And then by chance, I found an agent.
One second. Finding an agent is 1 in a million. So you have to describe this to our audience.
I got insanely lucky, Mel. What happened is I submitted 10 pages of this manuscript to, there's a pitch competition that happens as part of Fold Festival in Canada. So you submit 10 sample pages and you get paired with an agent or an editor who provides you feedback. This is a voluntary thing that agents and editors do as part of giving back to the community. The festival is called Fold Festival. I can give you the link later for audiences listening. And
for all our Canadian writers.
Yes, for all the Canadian writers, I'll give you the link later, but look up Fold Festival Pitch Perfect Competition, but I will provide the link. And so I submitted those pages. I, by chance, got paired with an agent who handles middle grade. She really likes the Adrienne Mole diaries. And I had mentioned that in my query letter, as well as a few other books. She happened to be a fan of the other books. So she liked the plotting and of this book. She liked those first few pages. She said, can you send me the rest? And I knew at that moment, if I sent her the rest and if she liked the rest, then she was likely going to make an offer to represent this book, which is exactly what happened. I sent her the rest and she offered to represent me. And then we got a book deal easily because she just loved it so much. And again, Mel, I don't think everyone's going to love this book. I am fully prepared. Some people are absolutely going to hate this book. That's going to happen. Some people, and it's already happened. I've received some
well, if you're extremely religious or devout or extremely conservative, you might not like the candor of this book. But as a 70-year-old Jewish guy, I fell in love with the persona.
I love to hear it because I've been like, oh, did I say too much? But to me, this felt very real, and to me, this is real. So I have been naive.
I thought, when I read this, it's 100% you somehow.
It is a real person, right? Because these feelings are universal.
Like I'm reading and I say, this is like a real, true life diary.
That's exactly.
And I'm shocked that it's not 100%.
I wish I had.
But now it is. You see, now it's a real diary.
Yeah, I wish I had the kind of confidence maybe on some level that Mona does. Okay, I think Mona has a bit more confidence than I do. I'm a bit more of a self-doubting person.
But you're a writer, aren't you?
Yes, so that's also true.
Comes with the territory. So what? 1 second, Salma.
Yeah.
This is a good place to name your agent.
Amy Tompkins is wonderful. She works for Transatlantic Agency, which is a very well-respected agency here in Canada. Amy Tompkins really enjoys humor. I think I can say that safely. And she represents a wide variety of other authors. She's just a really lovely person to work with as well. She's been in the industry for a while. So if you get a chance, if you see that she's open for submissions, I wholeheartedly say, send to her. She's a lovely person.
Well, what writers need to appreciate, and I'm going to come back now to your success story. And I keep saying this, is agents receive something in the order of 2,000 manuscripts a year. Some receive more. And they usually accept less than 5. I'm thinking 2 or 3 new writers a year, new writers. So the chance is 1 in 1,000. So yes, of course, you have to have this serendipity of falling on an agent who loves the genre.
Yes.
But Salma, it's not enough. You have to have a remarkable manuscript, and you did.
Oh, but that's very sweet, Mel. The insecurity never ends. I'm still like, oh, I just got, and 100% the luck involved in this publishing game is huge.
But in any walk of life, you need the luck.
Yeah.
But when the luck happens, right, you have to have the lottery ticket, right? And I read a lot and I interview a lot of children's writers, and there is something really spectacular about your book. And again, it's way out of my comfort zone. I haven't read middle grade since the Hardy Boys, and I was maybe 9, and I could barely get through the first, what's it called? Harry Potter.
Right, yeah.
So this is really not my genre, but I was like amazed at how much fun it was to get into this, to get into Mona's secret life.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
And so this book is out now. It's out soon. I don't remember.
It's out tomorrow. Tomorrow is the release date. So it will be, yeah. So it's available for purchase. I mean, you hit the Amazon, or you visit your local bookstore and you support them.
That's much better.
Yeah. You ask them, hey, can you arrange to have this delivered? Enjoy it. I really wanted people to laugh. A lot of it was written during the pandemic. So I thought this is a time period we all kind of need to laugh.
It's incredible. I thought you wrote this 10 years ago. But you didn't talk about the publisher.
The publisher. So Amy then sent it out to publishers. And that happened fairly quickly. I did have, along with Amy, I made some changes to it based on her feedback. So we took out 1 or 2 storylines that weren't adding much. And then we sent it off to publishers. I heard back from Lynn Meeson, should I name her? The editor?
Yes. You just did. I don't edit these things.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So she worked with me on the edits. Again, super, super nice, wonderful person. So again, I've had such a nice experience on this book. Really, it's now out into the world. What will happen with it will happen with it. I hope it touches the people that it touches, and I hope I can shoulder whatever.
Okay, so did you mention the publisher?
Oh, the publisher, sorry. The publisher is Chandra. It's the Canadian imprint. Yes. So if you can see that,
yes,
Candor is the Canadian imprint of Penguin Random House. So they've been lovely to work with. If you get a copy of the physical book, it's beautiful. Like, it's just nicely laid out. The binding's nice. The paper quality is nice. It's all very nice. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful to be published by a traditional publisher, because then you feel that it will get distributed. One of my worries when I wrote this was that, oh, no one will ever read it. Who's going to pick up a story of a young Muslim girl who's immigrating? I don't know. Will anyone be interested? That was my biggest fear. But when you have Penguin behind you, you feel like, okay, it will get some distribution. Maybe somebody will be curious, pick it up. Maybe, you know, some crazy thing will happen and I'll end up on Mel Rosenberg's podcast. Who knows? So
how did that happen?
How did that happen? You know,
you're my first author who's not a picture book writer, I think.
It's amazing. It's a great honor.
Honestly, no, I said I have to meet this lady.
I hope I embody more and more of Mona. Honestly, I mean, it's in there. It's dormant. Some can come out, some cannot come out.
So our time is now running short. So I want to remind you of two things. I would like to ask you to read a short portion, if you will.
Sure.
And I'm going to ask you, at what age are you going to share this book with your kids?
Well, you know, the older one I already have, by the way.
The 9-year-old?
I have. She's pretty young for it, but I did talk her through it. So we read it together. She knew what I was writing about. And she's an older, mature girl. So she was very curious. The younger one also wanted to read it. So we started and then we stopped because I was like, she's not quite ready. But she's very curious. So I'm going to have to do it to read it to her or alongside her very soon because she's very jealous.
And I hope your parents are well.
My parents are very well, yes.
So what am I going to ask you now?
I don't know what you're going to ask me now. Did my parents read it? You're going to ask me?
Yes, of course.
Yes. My parents are very well aware of what I write about and who I am. And I think I thank them in my acknowledgements, saying that I would not be who I am without them. And that is very much true. I hope they're proud of it. They're proud that it's out in the world. Have we sat down and discussed each and every scene and scenario? You know what? I will say, unfortunately, Mel, I do think we live in an age where, and a time where negativity sells. So the stories of our division, the stories of hatred among communities sell more, spread more than the stories of love between us. That's unfortunately just the way humanity is programmed or profit is programmed or what have you. These stories are out there. I'm not writing anything that does not exist. So the love is out there, it exists. Are people going to be appalled? Like, oh my God, how could she write about this? Listen, it's happening. Whether or not I'm writing about it, people are living lives of love and togetherness. So I'm putting it out in the book.
So I'm going to infer that the candor in your story is not going to be exactly sweet for all ears.
It's not going to be sweet for all ears. Absolutely, it won't.
But it makes it much more important to share it.
I think it does make it important to share it. I think if we want to move towards a world and humanity that's more compassionate, let's speak of these stories as well. They exist.
So Salma, I'm hoping you can you have a little yellow thing that you can open the book and read a passage. Yes.
Yes. Tell me where you would like me to. Do you have a passage you want me to read, or?
Yes, but so what?
Sure. No. Tell me your passage.
I won't, because then I have to. My copy is on the computer, and I'm going to have to do all kinds of.
All kinds of things.
Let's see if you pick a part that I like.
Well, there's so many parts. I don't know what to give. Let me just give. Okay. What shall I? So I want to give the readers a taste of what's in the book, okay? Because I think you should kind of know what you're getting into, maybe a little bit. So let's read this passage. January 8th, 1991. Today we were supposed to have our first ever gym class, and I was so excited to learn about new chest scoring sports. But alas, we're off to a very bad start. Our whole class had to spend the morning standing at our desks, and our much anticipated first gym class ever has now been moved to next week. Someone wrote "Sports are for sluts" on one of the washroom stalls, and PT class was cancelled. SLUT was underlined 3 times in thick, angry lashings. Lines. Who wrote this word? Our homeroom teacher, Mrs. Adila, demanded all morning. No one looked up. What does this word mean? we asked each other at lunchtime. No one could find it in any dictionary, so it's clearly misspelled. And that gives you a hint of what Mona's going through. March 30th, 1991. Ammi and Abba argued about that word immigration again last night, which I looked up, and it means that my parents are arguing about moving to a new country. Our parents have always blindly done whatever they've wanted, but this one would really take the cake. And I'll leave it at that. It's a short and sweet reading. You have a young girl who's trying to make sense of a changing world, and a world that's becoming all too adult for her very soon, which is what happens when you are displaced, when you move from place to place during puberty. This is gonna happen.
If I were your parent, I would be very proud of you and figure that it all turned out all right.
Ah, thank you. I'm sure they would love to know that.
And secondly, I think it's incredible that I can sit here next to Tel Aviv and interview a Muslim writer who's celebrating Eid al-Fitr, and her new book is coming out tomorrow. So thanks to Allah. And I hope that when I'm in Toronto, we'll actually get to meet, and I will buy a copy of your book, and perhaps you will autograph it for me.
Inshallah, as we say.
Inshallah.
Yes, absolutely. I hope when you are here, we'll do this offline, but I'll be giving you my contact details, and then you better hit me up and let's go for a chai, tea.
A chai masala or something.
Yeah, let's do that.
So, okay. I just want to say a giant thank you to tell all our listeners that I highly recommend this book. It is so precious. And Salma Hussain, on behalf of the New Books Network, this is Mel Rosenberg for the Children's Literature Channel, saying a big thank you to you for being on the program. A book that is essentially so full of optimism in the end. And this conversation has left me full of optimism also.
Isn't that wonderful? I thank you, Mel. These things can happen alone, right? It has to happen together. So I think it's so wonderful that we are meeting online, at least for now, and then inshallah in person soon.
Absolutely. So thanks so much, and good luck with this wonderful book of yours.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.